Welcome to the Coffee with Cheryl podcast, the podcast for women over 50 who want to live their best life right now. Imagine having the courage to reinvent your life financially, professionally, personally, and spiritually. Join Cheryl and guests as they share practical tips and resources to inspire you to achieve the lifestyle of your dreams. So grab your favorite mug. It's time for Coffee with Cheryl.
Welcome to the Coffee with Cheryl podcast, a podcast for women over 50 who want to live their best life right now. I am your host, Cheryl Garrison. I am a publisher, I'm an author, I'm a coach. I am passionate about everything that has to do with women over 50 and 50-something lifestyle is our resource business to help women connect with other women over 50 to share their businesses, share their lifestyle, to just bond together and figure out this journey and navigate this journey together. Welcome to the podcast on this beautiful Monday morning. I want to spend some time today really talking about 2024 in review. This is our last podcast of the year, and it has been an interesting year. It has been a year that's been full of many personal losses and personal triumphs, and just I wanted to spend some time just reviewing through our podcast that we did this year and just sort of hopefully giving you some insight to what they're about. And maybe if you haven't listened to any of them, you can go back and listen and maybe find that little nugget that will help you move into 2025, looking forward to it being your best year ever. So I want to start, as we usually do, with our quote for our podcast today. And this podcast is Living Your Best Life 2024 in Review. Our quote today is, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward." Of course, I'll read that again. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. And so in reviewing backwards what we've done this year, I'm praying that you will find something that's going to move you forward into 2025. And at the end, we'll talk about some things that you can do to get prepared for the new year that will be coming up. It's hard to believe that it's already December, but it is, and we are grateful to be here to be able to talk about what we did in 2024. So our first podcast was Living Your Best Life, Telling Your Story. And in that podcast, I shared 5 reasons that you should tell your story. And the biggest reason is that you want to share what you have been through or your knowledge with others, especially women over 50 who are traveling the same journey. You may have experienced something that will help them know that it's okay what they're going through, and it's never too late to do some really amazing things in our 50-something. And if you tell your story, you are helping other women live their story. So our first podcast was Living Your Best Life, Telling Your Story. And a lot of that had to do with also the publishing of my first fiction novel, Legacy. And it was a story about family and about ancestry and about secrets and how we can, as a family, we can bond to move beyond some of the things that separate us. And so we talked about telling your story. The second podcast was Living Your Best Life, Doing What You Love. There's nothing greater in life than to wake up every morning and do what you love, do what you're purposed to do. And I am very grateful that I get to do that in my life right now. I get to wake up. I get to help women publish their books. I get to write my own books. I get to coach women to living their best life right now. I get to spend time just watching television, drinking my coffee, going and visiting with friends, helping others, just doing the things that I love to do, spending time with my family, spending time with my grandchildren when I am able to travel or they're able to come here. So living your best life, doing what you love. And this was prompted in February by the loss of my sister Jerry, and knowing that she loved life to the fullest. And it just reminded me that if I wasn't doing the things that I love, that life is short, life is fleeting. And her leaving here reminded me that I needed to make sure that I was absolutely waking up every day doing the things that I love. So I share with you some ways that you can do that in your own life. Our third podcast was practicing self care, living your best life, practicing self care. And we had for our guest Linda Michelle Trainer, who is a certified transformation coach. And she has also helps people with how to be a caregiver, how to take care of yourself while caring for others. And she had a dynamic testimony and story to share about caring for her mother, caring for her husband, and how she's able to do that and hold down a full-time job. And just some of the tips that she left us with to help us as some of us who are in that position where we are caring for our parents, caring for a child, or just caring for a friend, how to do that and make sure that we are taking care of ourselves in the process. Our next podcast was Living Your Best Life, Reaching for the Stars. And this was titled that because we had a Metropolitan Opera star, Isola Jones, as our guest. And from the time she was very little, her quest in life was to reach for the stars. And she was able to do that through her music. She performed with Pavarotti. She performed with Leotina Price. She performed at the Met for many, many years as one of their on-site talent. And so she traveled the world singing opera, singing the things that she loved, and she reached for those stars. And when she retired, she was able to come here to Phoenix and share her talent at South Mountain Community College, where she teaches voice lessons and other music classes. And at the right young age of 62, she decided that she wanted to go into something very unique, another reaching for those stars. And she went into bodybuilding and started to participate in bodybuilding competitions at 62. So if you don't haven't heard of Isola Jones, look her up and check out what she has done and how she has reached for those stars. And be sure to tune into our podcast. Go back and listen to that podcast and find out how she lived her life reaching for the stars, which encourages us that it doesn't matter your age. At 62, if she can start bodybuilding, you can do anything in your 50 something. Our next podcast was Living Your Best Life, Loving Yourself and Others. We had a guest, Carol Brown, who is the CEO of Brown Tone Productions. She uses production, she uses plays, she uses Harriet Tubman plays to help women and young girls learn how to love themselves, learn about self-love and how that promotes other things in your life. So if you're feeling like I just don't feel really good about who I am, you'll want to go back and listen to that podcast because she talks about how she learned how to love herself and teach other people how to love themselves. And in doing so, they were able to build their own businesses, accomplish some of the things that they had wanted to, but had just really lost the confidence to do because they had fallen out of love with themselves. Can you imagine loving yourself so much that you go out and actually achieve the desires of your heart? That's what this podcast was all about. So you want to tune into that one if you are thinking about ways that you can practice more love, not just for yourself, but for others as well. The next podcast was living your best life when things go wrong. And things do go wrong. No matter what you're doing, you're going to find yourself in a position where something fails or something doesn't get delivered if you need it delivered. Something doesn't get completed if you need it completed. And this podcast was prompted by one of my clients, one of my authors who I published her book, and she was waiting for her book signing, and we had these books ordered, and we were just waiting and waiting, and they did not arrive. And she had a book signing all planned, beautiful, beautiful event. And instead of canceling and saying, well, we'll have to wait, we did the book signing. It was successful, and we did it even though something went wrong. So if you have your own business, if you're in a professional career, whatever you're doing, if you're working at the church, if you're over any kind of in any leadership position, or just within your own household, when things go wrong, we don't shrink back and just say, oh, well, I just can't do it. It's too late. It's this and that. And we don't complain. We find plan B. So this podcast was all about how to find your plan B when plan A goes wrong. And believe me, it does happen. It happens all the time. And you have experienced it too. So be sure to listen to that podcast and just learn some tips that we share with you with how to just sort of reverse that and make your plan B the best plan, even better than plan A was ever going to be. And then our final podcast, no, it's our second to the last, is Living Your Best Life Reinvention episode. We talked about reinventing ourselves, finding something new about how we want to live our life. How do you reinvent yourself if things are just not going the way you want them to, the way you envision them in your 50 something? There's nothing wrong with reinventing who you are. Go starting your own business, writing a book, running a marathon, doing bodybuilding, going and changing your career, moving to another location, traveling the world, reinventing who you are. That comes with really first knowing who you are and then knowing what you want. And so we talk about reinvention. And that's going to be part of our, as we end this year, I'm going to be have one-on-one coaching sessions available for those of you who want to create a reinvention plan and come up with a plan to live your best life in 2025. And it's all about reinvention. I reinvented my life, and I have not looked back. 50-something lifestyle was, I had no idea that was the journey. But once I stepped back and I really thought about what is it that you truly want, and then this vision came, and then I started working toward it, and now it's here, and I am living my best life through reinvention. And then our final podcast was Living Your Best Life, Caring for Others. I call this our election podcast because this was recorded right after our election. One of the most negative and divisive things that I have ever experienced in my lifetime. And I know it divided our country. It has divided our country. I have friends who didn't even want to leave their homes because they were just so depressed about the condition of our world. And we talked this podcast talks about ways to show kindness, ways to show people that you care, because deep down we are caring people. And if one by one we take the responsibility to care for other people, then that changes our world. We can't live in that negative, ugly country that was profiled for us, even though many of us voted for that. Even though, and we were voting for groceries and lower gas, but what we got was negativity and not caring for our fellow man. But this podcast, I think we shared at least 10 ways that you can show kindness and you can change the world around you. Even if we change our neighborhoods one by one, even our household, if we do that and we learn to care for other people, that makes our world better. So I hope it didn't go through them too quickly for you. I know everyone has things to do, but I wanted to share with you the podcast that we had this year, and I'm looking forward to 2025 and exploring more about this community, having more guests on, and taking the podcast to another level. Now, what are you going to do for yourself, for your business, for your career, for your family, for your church, for your social club? Whatever it is that you're involved in, what are you going to do in 2025 to make it your best year in whatever it is that you determine that you want to do? And if you're stuck, if you want to get unstuck, contact me. I will put a link in the comments, but I also, you can go to my website, 50somethinglifestyle.com, and click on the schedule. It's a Right now you can schedule a free consultation, and then we can talk about how we can get you as part of a coaching series that will help you create your own plan for 2025 so that you can hit the ground running with a plan in hand and knowing what you are working toward to make your life the best life that it can be in your 50 somethings. So I hope you got a little bit today that will encourage you to listen to some of the recordings. It will encourage you to follow 50 something lifestyle in 2025. It will encourage you to check out the Coffee with Cheryl podcast, and it may encourage you to join our 50 something women's network on Facebook. But whatever you do the thing that really is going to change your life and make it your best life, because we're all about living our best life, not 3 years from now, not tomorrow, but right now, today. And again, check out the 50somethinglifestyle.com and let me hear from you. I believe we also have a place for you to go ahead and sign up for a series of coaching, and we will put that link in the comments as well, so you can go to the website and sign up for that. But if you're looking to do that in 2025, I hope again that you heard something today that is going to motivate you to live your best life right now. Have a great rest of this Monday, and I will see you in 2025.